Okay, well I thought I'd do another update video on the truck since it's been running pretty well now. And I wanted to recap kind of what I ended up doing to tune things up and kind of what worked and what didn't along the way. So if you've been following along with the videos on the channel, you can see that I removed some of the smog stuff. And specifically, I was having idling issues and I was trying to get the idle as smooth as I could. Ultimately, what solved the problem was, and I mentioned this in some of my other videos about the idle air control valve, is you just take a piece of duct tape and you fold it over this lip. You take the hose off and you can cover up the hole which the idle air control valve gets its air source from. I think what had happened was when I put the whole throttle body and idle air control back together, I think I adjusted the idle air control little screw thingy in the back, the cone. I think I adjusted it one turn too far out. And so I started to notice a symptom on my truck when I was driving around. Once it got up to temperature, everything was okay. But, let's say that I went into a store and, came back 15, 20 minutes later and got back in the truck, and the temperature, of the oil, for example, had gone from 180 down to 135 or something. Suddenly the truck, the first few times I'd come up to a signal, it would the idle would go real low, and the wideband O2 controller reading would suddenly go way lean off the charts. And at first I thought I was having an issue with the adjustments here because I run this internally one click leaner. Ultimately, after thinking about it, I realized, I probably have the adjustment on the idle air control valve out of whack. What I did was I blocked it off, and when I did that, all my problems, idle problems, went away, except that now I don't have kind of the cold start circuit. So when I first start the truck in the morning, it takes a minute or two for the idle to kind of come up to where I want it. But by the time I've driven a mile, then we're good. So I'm running the truck that way. Also, you'll notice I blocked off the air suction stuff over there and also right here. It was working okay. I just that little canister thing was always in the way when I was, working around here. So I just opted to take it off for now. And I didn't, I just felt like I didn't want to have that in the mix. The other thing I did was I disconnected my EGR valve by pulling that vacuum line. And again, I still have it, but I had just pulled it off for testing purposes. And I noticed the truck seemed to run a little bit crisper without that. So I'm going to leave that off for now. I also have my test pipe in on the catalytic converter. So I don't have the catalytic converter and I have just a test pipe in. These are smog legal headers, which is not a header from LC Engineering, which is nice. But and I do have my catalytic converter. But I noticed the truck seems to get a little bit better power when I'm running the test pipe. So that's how I have things set up right now. The other thing I did while I was testing was I had taken this hose off, and I just I blocked this off, and I just put a little breather cap right here. However, what I noticed when I did that was I was getting some oil residue on the block right here and stuff blowing, and I suspect that the lack of additional vacuum from that source was allowing oil to blow by the dipstick. So, I'm not a big fan of dripping oil off my motor, so I just figured, well, put this back in, and then what I'm going to do is, every few months, I'm going to pull this intake off, this intake hose off, and then just spray B12 Chem Tool to help keep the inside of the plenum and the intake runners clean. So that's kind of where things are. And then anyone who's seen the other videos, you can see that I relocated the EGR, the air suction, over here, kind of get them off the top of the motor so I can pull the valve cover on and off more easily. Let's see what else have I done? Oh, just to comment a little bit on this. Let me grab my screwdriver real quick out of the truck here, and I'll pop it open for anyone who's curious. But I will say that blocking off that idle air control valve really kind of helped quite a bit as far as getting the truck to idle the way I wanted it. And then in here you can see that little silver mark that you see right there is the original factory setting. And this is a rebuilt unit from Napa, because I had accidentally messed up the the connectors on my factory one that was older. So this is a rebuild Napa unit. I'm running it one click leaner, which is where you turn that little wheel, you pop that little, you pop this little retaining spring on this side, you pop it open with the tip of the screwdriver, and then you can get your fingers in there and turn this little black wheel with the spring on it. And that tricks the ECU into thinking that you either are getting more or less air than you really are. There's a good article on LC Engineering about doing this, so I won't cover it again. But as you can see, I'm running one click leaner, and that means turning the little wheel one click clockwise. And just, you know, based on seat of the pants kind of road testing and how smooth or not smooth the motor is, I found out of all my trials, you know, one click richer, one click leaner, two clicks leaner, three clicks leaner, I found that one click leaner seems to kind of be the sweet spot. And then with regard to the trim screw, and you can see I've made a few little marks there. All that trim screw is it's basically, you know, this affair here where there's a screw, and then as you go up and down, it opens a little tiny channel which allows you to let unmetered air through. I'm running mine at, I think, let me see here. I think I'm running mine at a half a turn open. So, you know, what you've got is you've got a screw. So then, you know, if you turn the screw one turn, it's going to only go up about 1 millimeter or whatever the thread pitch is. And if you turn it 2 turns, you know, 2 millimeters. So you got to get any appreciable air through that little bypass trim channel, you got to really back the thing out. And you can start to, you know, feel the motor wanting to not idle correctly. So the only other thing I did was I noticed that the O-ring that comes with the LC Engineering stainless steel idle adjustment screw was actually kind of leaking a little bit. And so I was having some problems getting the idle where I wanted it. I took it out, and I in my little O-ring kit I found a little bit thicker O-ring, and I put grease on it and put it back in, and that seems to have solved the problem. The only other thing I might do is LC Engineering sells a bushing replacement kit, and I'm not sure, I could have sworn I checked my bushings and they were okay, but now I see there's a little compliance. I don't know if you can see it on camera. There's a little compliance on the throttle shaft. So I don't know if that's normal or if that means I have a little bit of an air leak there. But the truck's running so well that, you know, I probably am not gonna pull things apart and mess with that right now. I've got about 450 miles on the motor since rebuilding it and torquing down the head and everything. I was debating, even though I'm using a Permatex, well, let's see, no. Is it Permatex? The Permatorque head gasket from Feldpro. I may still pull the valve cover in another 100 or 2 miles and just verify that the torque is okay. If you see my other videos, you'll see I hand scrape the block and, you know, all that stuff. So I'm pretty confident the head gasket is doing a real good job sealing. I have not run a compression check yet, but that's on the list of things to do. Like I say, the truck's running pretty well. As far as mileage goes, I haven't really taken it out for a long trip, but around town, you know, I get anywhere between 17.9, so 18 miles per gallon to about 20 sometimes, you know, 19, 20 miles per gallon, depending on how I'm driving. I've been doing a lot of kind of, you know, wide open throttle test runs, so gas mileage is not real good right now, probably. Let's see what else. Oh, you can see I mounted the aftermarket grill. Came out real nice. What I did was you know, on these grills they have this crazy plastic pop-in thing with these little bizarre clips that Toyota uses. I don't know what they were thinking in Japan but I hacked all that off with a saw and just left a little bit of an indexing kind of lip, and then I just drilled out the holes, and I ran some button head Allen stainless steel bolts, 6mm, you know, M6 by 1 through, and then just caught them on the back with a little serrated kind of nut. And that did an absolutely bang up job on getting the grill on there. And then you can see over here, I'm in the process of building my front push bar. Originally I was going to do it down here, but I think I'm going to do it up here because, you know, those pesky Priuses, sometimes they decide they want to back into you instead of go forward. And so I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a super heavy duty plate steel push bar in the front of my truck, you know? So I decided I'm going to weld one up. And I'm going to, and so this is kind of my template I've been working on. I still got a little ways to go, but I'll make another video on that. But there's a company, if you guys aren't hip to, it's called OSH Cutting or laser cutting or something like that. Anyways, they're the ones I used to laser cut the brackets for my brake job. In fact, somewhere over here. You can kind of see it. I'll give you an example. So I drew up, these are actually the adapters I made for the rear brakes over there. So I just drew this up on a CAD program, you know, Fusion 360, and they laser cut these out of, I think it's 3/8 or 1/2 inch stainless. Super nice. So I'll put the link to those guys in the description. But I'm going to use them again. I was real impressed with the quality of their work and everything. I'm going to use those guys again, and I'm going to cut a couple plates, and then weld some pipes across and make that, you know, once I get my template figured out, make a real nice push bar that bolts into the frame. Oh, and you can see I put my little Taiwan side marker last time. We'll see how long those last. I may have to go factory OEM on those, because I'll tell you what, I don't know if I mentioned it, but on the back I put the little $14 Taiwan, you know, lenses, and within just 6 months the clear part had fogged over this horrible foggy color. I ended up just throwing away, and I had to bite the bullet and spend $140 for the actual Toyota ones. So anyways, I think that kind of, you know, covers some of the things I wanted to mention about getting the truck to idle well and run well. Like I said, I took some of the injection stuff off, the air injector stuff. Switching over to the new spark plug wires helped a lot. And I mentioned in another video, you can see I ran a real heavy duty ground strap. Let me see if I can get the flashlight here and show you what I'm talking about. I ran a real heavy duty ground strap. You can see it there, that little looping thing. I ran it from the cylinder head, it just bolts right there, down to the block, and then you can see that's all my wiring for the starter and for the Braille battery. And that sure seemed to help the truck run, because originally I just had this little kind of, you know, ground strap here. And I thought, I don't know, if it's pumping, you know, 13,000 volts into the cylinder head across 4 cylinders, it might be nice to have a bigger return strap for the electricity to get back to wherever those electrons want to go. So I made that big ground strap and bolted it in there, and sure enough, truck started running a lot better. So that's a little thing that might be helpful. And as all you guys know, I'm a big fan of Braille batteries. All you gotta do is go to ferrarichat.com and you'll see countless threads where I'm singing the praises of my Braille battery. I think people over there are probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but that's okay. Anyways, so I talked to the folks over at Braille Battery, and they asked me, well, hey, now that you're working on the pickup truck, what kind of battery are you running over there? We got to talking, and they sold me on this G30. And I'll tell you what, I have never been more happy with a battery in my whole life. This thing is phenomenal. Truck starts right up every time. Super compact. You can literally, if you pull the terminals off this, you literally just pick this up with one hand. I think it weighs like 3 pounds or something ridiculously light. So I'm real happy with it. And it's a little on the pricey side, but boy, outstanding battery. And then also, you guys have been asking about the Champion radiator. Phenomenal performance with this. I did have to switch back to rubber hoses. These aren't the factory ones. I have the factory ones in a box. And I ended up having to use double Michelor tension clamps, and that solved all my leaking problems. So, like I say, the truck's really running well. And I think that's probably about it. The next video will probably be an update on maybe making the front push bar, and maybe I'll do a little video talking about what kind of gas mileage I get when I finally get this thing out on a long couple 100-mile freeway trip. And I'm real curious to see also what it's going to get. I'm running 28-inch wheels and 28-inch tires, and I've got the Toyota Supra W58 transmission gearbox in there, and then I'm running a 410 V6 8-inch differential on this thing. So that's pretty good gearing. I was thinking about putting an E-locker with a manual lever in the rear differential, so I could have kind of a manual locking differential, but I probably won't do that until I put a new motor in. So anyways, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about anything I've done to the truck, feel free to use the comment section below. I try to answer everyone's comments. So all right, thanks for watching.